Hey there, it's Rob again for episode number 3 on how to become a travel agent as you follow along with my journey to becoming a travel agent. So if you're watching this in order, we've been talking about niches. And I gotta tell you, it's one thing to know what your niche is. It's quite another thing to know who your niche is, to really intimately know what it's like to be someone in that niche. I call that your customer persona or your avatar. And we need to figure out what it's like to be that kind of person that we are targeting as a travel agent. So in my last video, I shared that I think that what my niche is going to be is a hardcore bucket lister. Okay, well, what is it like? What is the typical hardcore bucket lister like? What do they look like? What are they wanting out of life? What bothers them? What are the pains? What are the gains? And so I want to talk through some exercises that I have gone through as a small business consultant to help companies figure out their customer persona and then how to use that customer persona to craft a business that their target market is going to fall in love with and rave about. So let's get it going. One of the first exercises I do when somebody has figured out who their target market is we do something called an empathy map or an empathy canvas. This helps us identify with all kinds of things. And so there are 5 different aspects of this. We're going to start with what your target market thinks and feels. And this is called an empathy map for a reason. We are empathizing with someone in our target audience. So I want you to picture one person. You can name them whatever you want, but it's someone who fits into your niche. So let's just call them Paul. So think about Paul. When it comes to travel, we're a travel agent, right? When it comes to travel, what is it that Paul thinks? What is it that Paul feels? Paul may think that I can plan this myself. Paul may feel like I'm too busy, I need a break. There's lots of things that Paul, as the average, the sum of our target audience, may think and feel. I need to write all those things down and stick them up on a wall, and we'll come back to those later. So thinking what they think, what they feel, is step number 1 to the empathy canvas. Step number 2, then, is what do they see? So what does Paul see around him as it relates to travel? Well, Paul may see his buddies' photos on Facebook. That's where he hangs out. He may see them posting their pictures from their trip to Bali, to their trip to Indonesia, to their safari in Africa. He sees those things and he kind of wants them. He may see a very busy schedule in front of his face every single day. So, number 1, think and feel. Number 2, what do they see? Number 3 then is what do they say? What comes out of their mouth as it relates to travel? For me, for the average hardcore bucket lister, what they may say is, I've always wanted to go to blank. They may say, I'm finally at a point where I can travel, so I want to go see the world. They may say, I'm too busy, I need a break. Those are all things that maybe Paul might say as the kind of person who has a bucket list and actually has the resources and the time to make it happen now. And that's important. I don't want to talk to someone who has a bucket list but has no money. They're not really in my niche. They are, but they're not. So next is what do they do? What do they do? So Paul, he may be retired. So maybe he does not a whole lot anymore. Maybe he spends a lot of time figuring out what he wants to do. Maybe Paul travels regularly already. That's something he does. Maybe Paul spends a lot of time on travel websites. These are all things that he does. He physically does these things, and I need to know that if I'm going to empathize and then serve someone like Paul. And then finally, the fifth thing to empathize is, what do you hear them say? What does your target market hear? So Paul hears about interesting new places from his friends. He hears that you don't need a travel agent. You can do all this yourself. There's all kinds of things that Paul may hear from the people around him and from the media. We need to be aware of that, because all of this plays into how we serve someone. So those 5 things, when you put them all together, what you end up identifying are pains and gains. Pains are things that bother us. They're things that we need to fix. And if we can find a painkiller for those greatest pains, we've got a business. And gains are kind of the same, but then again, they're exactly the opposite. They're the things that we want in our life. They don't have to be painful, we just want them. And so if we can make gain creators, there is also another business opportunity. So we are looking for pain killers and gain creators. And all of that stems from our empathizing, our empathy map. So in the description box, I have created a link to an empathy canvas for you as you're thinking about your niche, the kind of person who you want to serve with your travel business. Download that, fill it out, take some time. This is a step that is worth your time. Once you've done that, once you think you've got a good idea about who your client persona is, who your target audience is, your next step is to build an avatar or a client persona. And so this is a representation of your target audience. I named my guy Paul. I actually want to paint a picture of Paul, almost as if he really exists, although he's fictional. So I may have a picture in my mind of what Paul looks like, how old he is, where he went to college, if he went to college, does he have a family, what's his lifestyle like, what does he love about his life, what does he want in his life, what's going wrong, what are those pains that he thinks about, what keeps him up at night, what does he want his legacy to be, how does, everything about Paul. And I write 5 or 6 paragraphs that tell me all about Paul. And why do I go through this step? Here's why. When I'm creating a piece of content, when I'm creating a new service, a new little perk, I'm thinking about Paul. What would Paul think about this? And that helps. If I can just picture what one person's going to think about this, chances are it's going to appeal to everyone I serve. That's the value of having an avatar, of having a client persona. So don't skip this step. Here again, I've provided a resource for you to help plan that customer persona, that client persona. It's my avatar worksheet. Use this, download it, fill it out. That's your homework. I'm going to do the same, and I can't wait to hear more about your avatar. Until then, take care. Give this video a like if you're enjoying this content, if you're getting something out of it. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of it in the future. All right, guys, good luck and take care.